The readings for today are read actually in this Sunday every day since it seems the 4th century. The way the Orthodox read the scriptures in the Divine Liturgy is prescribed, and it seems that the canon of readings, or the order of Sunday readings at least, started to be established in the 4th century, it seems, in Constantinople. At least that's how the legend goes. We don't know for certain, but we know from the oldest manuscripts that are in existence of the liturgical book of the 4 Gospels, which is actually a selection of texts, of course, that since many centuries the Church, at least in the Byzantine tradition, would read every Sunday pretty much, every year pretty much the same readings for each Sunday. And this is for me a topic of reflection many a times, because one would say, well, why repeating again and again in the same Sunday each year to have the same texts presented to the congregation? And in my mind, this is more of a pedagogy, an implicit form of pedagogy, if you like, a pedagogical strategy. You know, the ancients believed that repetition is the mother of learning, and since we are so forgetful, instead of being Homo sapiens, you know, people of thought, beings of dedicated to thinking, we are very forgetful beings, and I presume this is one of the reasons for which the ancients have innovated cycles of readings that were repeated yearly. Anyway, in the case of the Orthodox Church, this is a pedagogy that is implemented, and I assume it won't be changed soon. So, for this Sunday of October, the 2 readings are addressing, actually, in their conjunction somehow, topics of great significance. And although these texts come from an ancient age, of course, and people would say that the Gospel and the Apostolic preaching are no longer what we would need. That's how in some quarters in Christianity we hear this kind of musing. I believe that particularly these 2 readings are very relevant to our age. Let me give you the highlights of these readings. The Gospel reading is anyway quite long. So that's one of those events in the life of Christ. He was somewhere around the Sea of Galilee, and together with his disciples, they visited a place called Gadara, or the land of the Gadarenes, and Gerasenes, and so on and so forth. That place is known by 2 or 3 names. And there are 2 issues that are highlighted by this Gospel reading, I presume. One of them is the fact that there's this dramatic case of a man who is an outcast. He has to live outside the community, abandoned by all, because he's demon possessed. And in that kind of condition, he's no longer a fit member of society, and therefore he's marginalized or pushed aside. It's a double tragedy, if you like. On the one hand, it's the personal issue, because this person isn't in the right mind to paraphrase one of the line towards the end of the reading, and he seems to be in incapacity to choose freely for himself. That there's another power, another kind of intellect that dictates for him. That's the first aspect of his tragedy. There's the other aspect of his tragedy because he's deprived of human society, of human community. There is in the same gospel reading another problem that isn't necessarily pointed as such, but you can immediately draw this conclusion when you read at least the denouement, the end of the reading. Christ is banned from the land by people that were supposedly normal, that were not demon-possessed. And the tragedy of these people is, I think, deeper and more serious a problem than that of the demon-possessed, because in that case, there was a problem that was an obvious problem. Whereas with the gatherings, the problem isn't that obvious. But these people, who were supposedly Jews, were involved in a trade that wasn't quite clean. They were raising pigs and possibly even eating that meat, which was banned for the Jews. If not eating it, if not consuming it, at least they would trade that meat. Anyway, that wasn't the most of koshers of occupations for the Jews. So what's the problem with these people? They are so much interested in their trade, in their activity. It's how they earn their living. That when that trade is threatened by the Lord, in that they experienced a loss. You know, some of the pigs pushed by the demons fell from the cliff and drowned. These people, instead of sitting, taking a break and thinking, reflecting on what actually happened there, they take the immediate measure of banishing the Lord. They push him away. And I believe that the gospel is very dramatic, at least this reading, and very suggestive of situations and conditions, if you like, that are encountered not only in the first century Palestine, but also throughout the history of the world, particularly the matter of the gatherings who, blinded by their interest in earning money, in material goods, are unable to offer compassion to their countrymen, the man that was supposedly demon-possessed and banned from the community. On the other hand, they are blinded to the presence of the Lord. They cannot acknowledge the presence of the Lord. Their materialism, to put it that way, makes them unable, drives them to this solution of theirs, that was so wrong, to deprive themselves of the presence of the Lord, who would bring them life and the fullness of life. The other reading from St. Paul's letter to the Ephesians in chapter 2. We have a very rich text which points out the fact that we sinners are actually dead. He actually uses the word dead through sin, which means what? That people that live outside the wisdom and the guidance and the power of the Lord, those that have refused God in their lives, are like dead. And we live in a society where we have a lot of symbols and metaphors of this kind of death, spiritual death, thinking of popular culture and zombie movies and all that, I think that that's pretty much what we could apply as a general metaphor, for this situation. No offense, I assume.
Walking
for
dead.
people that's walking dead, or for the people that would take that kind of path in life to deprive themselves of God and light and the fullness of life. But we were all like that before we were called, and what St. Paul says there is quite significant. The fact that the Lord, becoming the Son of Man, has taken upon himself our humanity and somehow, you can call it mystically, recapitulated, summarized all of us in his human experience. We have all went together with him through the crucifixion, through the resurrection, through the ascension, and then the sitting at the right hand of the Father, to the extent that we, God's people, are now recreated in the image of Christ, says St. Paul, and we are supposed to live accordingly. This isn't the only place where St. Paul teaches us the same thing. In Romans 6, for instance, where he speaks of baptism as a renewal of life. There in chapter 6 in Romans, he points out the fact that if we have been granted this grace of a renewal of life, then we need to walk in the newness of life. So the two pericopes, the two passages, point out the fact that if we have been given something, this gift is also like a task for us. We need somehow to not deserve it, but work accordingly. We have been given life, we have been given salvation, we have been given a new creation, but we need to walk accordingly so that the gift isn't buried, so that the talent isn't wasted. And St. Paul in the letter to the Ephesians in chapter 2 shows how we can pursue this new way of life, and he brings to the fore 3 pointers. One is the grace of renewal, by which we have been given this new identity and we are recreated in the image of Christ. Then there's the faith, and he doesn't explain. The faith is, I guess, contains its own explanation. It's the adherence to the gospel of the Lord by which we are supposed to wake up. So through faith we wake up and we make sense of what was given us. And towards the end of the pericope, we see that on the one hand we need not boast about our virtues, but also we need to undertake a virtuous way of life nonetheless. Because we are created, he says, in the image of Christ, and it has been preordained for us to walk in a certain way, which is usually a topic difficult to compute. So on the one hand, we aren't supposed to boast because of our virtues. On the other hand, we have to undertake a virtuous way of life. And I presume there's no difficulty there. We need to work our perfection, our holiness in discretion, in humility. Boasting would waste all virtue that in God's grace we may acquire. And these readings together lead us to a certain understanding of our circumstances today. It is not without a reason that these two readings are associated today, and as I said earlier on, since centuries we read for this particular Sunday these two texts year after year, and there's a lot of wisdom there that we can draw for our own circumstances, for the enrichment of our own lives. On the one hand, we have the Gospel reading, which invites us to ponder where we are at. What kind of people are we? Are we those that are completely surrendered to materialism, earning, acquiring, possessing? Are we those people that are blinded to the Lord, blinded to the presence of the Lord in our midst, blinded also to the presence of their fellow human beings, to the extent that we cannot offer compassion, we cannot show mercy and love towards a human being, irrespective of who that person is? Are we that kind of people? What kind of people are we? Are we also, or perhaps, those that are no longer free to choose? Are we driven by other powers? Are we under insidious influences that keep us away from what we hold so dear? Freedom, dignity, the dignity of being human. So the text is very rich, and there are a lot of things that we can ponder about our lives, and maybe these are two extreme cases, extreme materialism that drives the gatherings to be so selfish and insensitive to the problem of one of their compatriots. On the other hand, to be blinded to the presence of the Lord, and the other extreme case, that of lack of freedom because of, I don't want to call it mental illness. The gospel teaches us that there are invisible powers that work against us, and our materialism sometimes blinds us to the presence of evil in the world. Maybe that's something that we should think about. I don't know what can be done other than turning towards the Lord in such cases, in both cases actually. And there is a solution. Irrespective of where we are at, between these two extremes, extreme materialism, selfishness, lack of compassion, blindness towards God, and perhaps lack of freedom because we are not doing our own will, but the will of something that keeps us away from God. Between these two extremes, there's shades of grey, if you want to call it that way, but there's always hope, because those who love Christ have been granted this great gift of becoming children of God, to be a new creation in His image and likeness. And it is a matter of waking up through faith, embracing the gospel, taking up the cross, and so pursue a holy way of life for the glory of God and our salvation.
Amen.
Amen.